Tim, you used to own a Jeep. Do you
I did.
miss that? Do you miss that thing?
Sometimes I do. On nice sunny days, I certainly do. On
Or
cold or rainy days, not so much.
are there any like convertible Teslas?
I think that some people might have chopped the top or something,
Oh, like a T-top style?
something like, but definitely aftermarket, crazy stuff.
Huh. Why do you think there will be a convertible Tesla at some point? I mean, you ever heard that?
No, I don't think that there ever will be.
What got you into Jeeps in the first place?
I was in my 20s. I was in Grand Forks, North Dakota, Air Force guy. Just waiting to burn a hole in my pocket. So, what better way to do that than with a Jeep and the accessories that you can do with a Jeep?
Do you remember like your miles per gallon on that thing?
Oh gosh, it was terrible.
I
It
get
was a
11.
night. It was yeah. I want to say I was like 15 or 16 or something. I mean, I don't know. I think I would get 220 miles per tank of gas. I remember that.
It's billed at 15 to 20. It's a lie. I don't understand. But it's the Jeep life, as you will. What about you guys, David and Brittany Peregoff? Excited to chat with you guys today. What got you guys into kind of the 4x4 vehicle?
Yep. Hey guys, by the way. Growing up in this area, I was seeing all the high school kids, the kids that you look up that are older than you that you think are really cool. They were all driving either full-size Ford Broncos or Jeeps or, the off-road rigs so that they could go. They called it rootin' or ruttin' back in the day. I don't know. Somehow that, turned into off-road lingo. But yeah, so just idolizing those kids. Then had a friend with an older brother. We went out in his Bronco. And after doing some off-roading in that, I was hooked. So in high school, I had a Bronco and then a Hummer. And now we're in a Jeep. So anything with four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
What kind of Jeep is it these days?
It's a old 98 Jeep Cherokee. So
okay, so it's still the same Jeep from before. Okay.
Yeah. And interestingly, so I bought it for $6,000 and now the average selling price is $12,500 for a Jeep Cherokee. Isn't that insane? That's crazy.
Not often that you make money on something like that.
Nice
little... Yeah. And then we've got
Jeeps are the ones that hold
the
highest. It was the Wrangler. Now it's becoming the Cherokee.
Highest resale value. The Wrangler has that title.
Yeah.
Yep. And
because mine's still worth a lot. And I'm like, it's amazing to me. I'm like, wow, like I've had this thing 12 years and it's only lost like $11,000 in value.
You saw your red one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a Wrangler. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
I think that was a JK.
Yeah, and then a guy that we're trying to convince to invest in Where2Wheel, he just bought a Cherokee for $20,000.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy about it other than
just clean.
Low mileage at 130,000 miles.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of places to off-road around this area?
No, that's the thing. There's nothing within, let's see, if you're going north, you're going 7 hours north up to Pennsylvania. If you're going west, you're going 5 hours west out to the Appalachian Mountains over past Roanoke. Yeah. And if you're going south, you're going down to the Outer Banks, which is like a 3-hour drive.
Or to Uwharrie, which is 5 hours.
Right. So we're an island of nowhere to go off-roading here in Hampton Roads.
So I'm guessing this is where the business idea came from.
You got it. Yeah, and then the data we've gathered from where2wheel.com shows us that there's approximately 190,000 off-road interested people in Hampton Roads. So, and an off-road park could only serve 15,000 a year at close to max capacity. So, I mean, that's less than 10% of the market you're able to serve with an off-road park on an annual basis.
Just here. And then our area is the same up and down the East Coast. So it's not just like Hampton Roads. It's pretty much every major metro area.
Every developed metro area has pushed out all the rural land and developed it. So there, by way of that, there's no off-road locations close to any cities.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's backtrack. You guys start where2wheel.com, which is what did I do?
You almost did wheel to wheel.
No, I didn't. You You guys start where2wheel.com. Now I'm all screwed up and I don't know if I'm going to say it right. And I've known you guys for a while. So you start that. Was that kind of the thing, and then it evolved into this other aspect, the actual park? Because that at some point had, I remember when I first met you guys, it was like 100,000 users or something obnoxious, and where I was just like, wow, that's great. So can you talk about the evolution of how that started, and then how it kind of turned into what you guys are kind of more focused on from a day-to-day perspective?
Yeah. So when we went to college, you left here. And when we came back, all the places that you were wheeling, which still weren't legal, were all closed or housing developments or whatnot. So you came up with the idea, well, you were spent hours trying to find where to go wheeling. And all the forums was the best place at the time. A lot of it was outdated, or no one was commenting. There was no directions, or, it was just not condensed, easily accessible, good information. And so you came up with creating a database for the country where people could just go on and add trails. They could take them down. They could adjust where the entrance is or conditions of the trail, because, it could be 2 weeks later completely different depending on the weather or overuse or whatnot. And we started that, and that is the largest crowdsourced trail database still to this date. I don't even know. We have like almost 40,000 members on that.
Yep. Keyword being crowdsourced, because there are other databases, but we're the largest crowdsourced one. And
we're the only one that has trails, like a good amount of trails east of the Mississippi. Everyone else is really hardcore focused out west. And so from that, what we learned was not only is there a lack of information, but if you look at the map, there's just an overwhelming amount of orange pins, which are people. And so people are coming to us to find somewhere to go off-roading. And so that basically is demand. Every person there is a demand for an off-road location. And so then you came up with, maybe the issue is that there really aren't any places that are close and easy. So the model right now for off-road parks or areas is, hundreds of thousands of acres out in the middle of nowhere. You have to go for the whole weekend. You spend more time on the interstate than you do on the trails. And if you break, it's an issue. And so we kind of flipped the model to close to metropolitan areas. The goal is within an hour of the major city hub. And it's the quick, the fast food of off-roading. You come in for like 1 to 3 hours, you go home, you don't have to camp, you don't have to lose the whole weekend, and you spend more time on the trails than you do on the pavement. And that's where we're at. So, and we have a prototype in Suffolk that we are crowdfunding to build a park here. So we kind of moved from the digital into the physical. Backwards.
How is it? Wow. What's the response been so far?
It's been really good. We've done not a ton of marketing. When did we launch it? So we had to build it. We just built a tiny little, basically an MVP prototype with tires, which we got for free, some telephone poles, which we got for free, and some dirt and manpower. And I think, what do you think the proving grounds? 3 acres?
Yeah, it's probably only about 3 acres cleared, but we spent less than $10,000 developing this prototype course. And it's gone really well so far. The community has been great in supporting it. It's obviously something they want to have happen. Our capacity is maybe only 12 vehicles per event, and we'll have 40 to 50 people trying to get into each event. So
it's been, I think we've been doing it since, I think July 4th weekend was the first
July 4th was the opener. So and
that group has grown to like almost 1,200 people. Our Facebook group, which is where we push the event, post the events, and pick people from. And we're using it as we created it as a YouTube studio so that we can film content and further push the crowdfunding campaign, because we thought that way people would get involved more if they actually saw people off-roading than just, static images. And in the meantime, it fulfills the mission of getting people off-roading until we can get a park built. So it's been pretty good.
Right.
So far.
And so an interesting thing with the prototyping process is it couldn't be a pay-to-play model, because then you'd have to get a business license and proper permits and everything. So for it to be a invitation only private event, that was the only way to open this up and host these as private events where they're invite only and people can come out for free. So then it's not technically an business that's operating on the prototype land. So It's been an interesting.
So it's more just like invite your friends over to watch a football game type of thing. It just happens to be some from an invite only perspective. That's how. Right. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
It's more of a marketing studio.
Yeah. We call it a YouTube studio, and we say we invite people out there to capture the content of off-roading, and then we can distribute that content and use that content to fuel the flywheel of the crowdfunding campaign.
Interesting. So so it's very interesting. I don't know that I've ever heard of an MVP from this kind of scale. Normally it's a very small hardware piece, if anything, a software piece. The dumbing of down of stuff to the littlest of things. This is unique from that perspective. So it's cool to talk through. One of the biggest challenges, and I know you guys have seen this too, with a lot of software is, you get interest, but how do you turn that interest into actual dollars at some point? And you get a lot of, fake data, if you will. And I'm interested in how you guys are looking at that with your 10 to 40 people of invite onlys. How are you maneuvering, understanding that they're going to pay you if this becomes a reality and they're not just coming because they're looking for something to do because it's free?
Right.
So W2W Parks is the crowdfunding page, and on there you can do a couple different things. You can buy different passes to the future park. You can buy a t-shirt, buy a sticker. You can sign up for the Proving Grounds Club, which is name your own price, and that's how you can get in at $0 if you want. The recommended amount is $11 a month. So we create all these different actions that people can take, and then from that is how you have to have a receipt or an action taken on that site, plus Mark is going on the event. And then from there, we pull people for the event. So you don't have to pay. You can come for $0. But 98% of the people are paying and doing, they're not doing $0. And so we've had quite a few people put more than.
I see it at $11 a month. The Proving Grounds membership, $11 a month. What do you think it'll be when it's open? In a legit business. Because what is Push Gardens, $100 a pop at this point? And I mean, it seems like that's
it won't be that much. You came up with the pricing.
Yeah, we were thinking we'd like to have half of it be a subscription and half of it be. So we were thinking of 20 and 20, a $20 subscription that you hold on a regular basis. So that's $20 a month, and then $20 each time you come out. So you're getting you're paying for the $20 a month subscription, and then each time you also show up at the park, you're paying $20 to go off-roading. And we thought that was a good revenue model, because then we can predict the stable reoccurring revenue of the subscription, and then your hard costs of dirt leaving the park on vehicles is getting paid for by the $20 that they're paying when they come out.
And then if you did want to do a subscription, it was like a per hour type thing. Like you got in the park, I think for $35.
Yeah, we were saying $35 to get in, and then $10 an hour after that.
So if you want to stay all day, you can. If you want to stay for just an hour or two, you can be out the door. And you can have the passengers are included. You can have as many passengers as you can legally fit, so as many seatbelts as you have.
Yep.
And then there's a spectator section. So, and what we found was we were with the Proving Grounds when we started it, because it's small and it's, it's just tires and logs and some obstacles and some trails. We weren't sure if reoccurring customers, if they would keep coming back, so keeping them interested and their subscription active and supporting the mission. But that has been the opposite. They all want to come back constantly.
Every weekend.
Which, just further proves that, people are so desperate for somewhere to go that even like a small, just come climb over the tires and stuff, they're willing to, and most of the people are holding a subscription. Right now, we haven't had anyone cancel. So that's been 5 months. So they've already paid $55 for even the option of hopefully having somewhere to go. So, because that was one of the things we ran into when we were trying to pitch to investors was, this whole,
how do you know they're going to show up?
Yeah, how do you know they're going to be there? Is there demand? And, we're in the market so we can see it. And I'm just like, how can you guys not see this? But they're outside of it. And so this is also just proving the demand exists, because these people are putting money into a possibility of hopefully having somewhere to go, and they're opening their wallets and doing it. So.
And right now you're open solely on the weekends at this point?
Yeah, we do have, we're just on the, this month we will have a couple events on Sundays, but most of the time it's just one per weekend. It just depends on the demand. Like we just did a night wheeling one on Saturday, which was our first one. That was really fun. So that had like 60 people were interested in that. I think we had 11
Is that Eric?
vehicles.
Was that Eric Pinson?
No, that's Sean Elling right
Oh.
there. Yeah. He's come like what? 2 times, and then he upgraded. He got new tires. Those were 35s. He switched to 37s, and he moved to a long arm kit. And then he was like, I want to come back out. I want to come back out. And so he came back out to try it on, or like if it's a rainy day, people want to come because they want to try it in different conditions. So it's been really interesting and good information collecting for us. But so far, all of our assumptions have been proven.
Yeah, it's been
correct.
nice to be able to do this prototype and be able to validate some of your assumptions without spending $500,000 and trying to validate your assumptions.
Because another one was, well, what if it's raining? I'm like, they don't care if it's raining. That's more exciting.
Yeah, I was
And we
good. One of my
proved that.
questions was going to be, do you have like a water truck on station that you can soak everything down and make some mud?
Not yet.
No, we're working on a possible mud, because that's the other thing. We don't really have a lot of mud right now, because that is a lot more remediation. You have to power wash. There's a lot more that goes into taking care of that, which the park would have, and they'll have rumble grids and stuff, so you get it all off before they get on the street. But this low cost MVP, we haven't really messed with mud, but we have a lot of people asking for it. So we are contemplating. Well, Wyatt is part of, he's the landowner, and he's part of the Where2Wheel Parks executive team. That's where the proving grounds are at. So we're in discussion to possibly do some type of special event,
mud days.
So was the land, is that like donated by, or are you leasing it currently?
No, so it's on a private residence, and he has 42 acres. And again, like if we wanted to lease the land, then you'd have to get the business permits and everything. And we looked into subdividing his land. Well, that's the route we'd have to go if we wanted to put the business on his land and keep him living on it. We'd have to subdivide it, because in Suffolk you can't have him living on the same land that a business would be operating on.
Yeah, we actually tried. We're looking at his land, and we put it aside because you had to subdivide. That's kind of back on the table. We don't know. Isle of Wight Fairgrounds, we had talked to them a while ago, and it kind of stalled, but they're reinterested. So there's a couple places and pieces we're looking at. And we scaled it down to like we can work with 15 acres and above instead of 50, which is a lot.
I mean this in the nicest of ways, right? But you guys have been trying to do this for a while. It's now finally getting some
traction,
some proving ground, right? So some stuff's actually happening. Like what's taken so long throughout this journey? Because I think so many other people at some point would have been like, all right, this isn't going to happen. I'm going to give up on this thing. But now it's starting to, you guys are actually, putting pedal to the metal, if you, I'm trying to think of all these car terms. But
The rubber's meeting the road.
Rubber's meeting the road. Yeah. Rubber's meeting the poles or whatever. Yeah. The dirt, the mud, like what's changed? Because it seems like some of the challenges that you just talked about are still there, but you guys are able to get through them in a little bit. Because I think about like 4 or 5 years ago, you were talking to Isle of Wight, you were talking to Virginia Beach, and there's interest, but then when it actually takes it to that next step, it doesn't seem like it ever gets there. So what's working now that wasn't before?
So we actually put it down for, I don't know, a couple of years. And then when COVID happened, we had some downtime. And so Dave was like, well, I'm going to explore the off-road park thing again, see if anything happens. And you connected with a landowner in Pungo, and we got really far with him, but he was older and we wanted a long-term lease. And so he didn't want to get into that. But it kind of sparked everything again. And then we met Wyatt at, actually, I'll give him a shout out, Jake Main's networking happy hour. Carl Clinties, I can never say his name right, with Epic Made had actually knew Wyatt and told him years ago that we were looking for land, but Wyatt had just bought it and he wasn't really at that point they were just new to the land, so he didn't really want to do anything on it. But it just came back around and we met him and he was like, yeah, I'm trying to see if I can monetize some of it, let's get together. And then even though it didn't turn out we could use his, he was all on board because he was a Jeeper and he like saw it too. So he could see the vision. Chris Shelton is still involved with it. And he can see it. So it's just, rounding out that final piece that would give us the ability to, show that this does exist and the demand is there. We had met with a couple investors right before COVID. And it was funny because they were like, well, just go find like a farmer's field and throw up like a prototype and prove the demand's there. And I was like, that's impossible. Like you have to have permits, you have to have all this stuff. I can't just like throw it up in like a field. And then that's like where we're at. It's not a field. It's much nicer than that. Yeah. But we figured out a way to still work within what the city wanted and to be able to show, that this can work. And then he knew how to operate heavy equipment. He had connections. So it was just, honestly, it was timing and luck. I mean, and I hate to hear that answer and I hate to give it, but it really was. It was just, perseverance and then just timing and luck.
It was also a willingness by us to scale back the vision and say, okay, we're not going to get that $500,000 from an investor to create, the park that we have that's the vision in our minds. So how can we, without that investment, what could we do? And then we connected with Wyatt and we just figured out, with the existing resources we had, what could we create? And
we still have to like raise the money or find investors. So we haven't crossed that hurdle yet, but we're at least like proving like if when we go talk to investors now, we have proof that,
the
they
people
will
are
pay and
pockets.
They do exist. Which is crazy. I'm like, just drive down the road. Every Jeep you see, that's a customer. Like, not like you're just stock Jeep, but But
what's the furthest someone's traveled to?
Oh my gosh, we had someone come from Roanoke, Virginia, because she just bought a new Bronco. Her name was Danielle, and she messaged me because I saw it, and I'm like, this is in Hampton Roads, right? And she's like, yeah. Is it okay if I come? And I was like, sure. And I'm like, it's not like, it's just a small park, I'm like, I don't want you to drive 4 hours and expect
3 acres seems pretty big though. I mean,
it's probably not that big.
Yeah.
You think so with the trails?
Yeah, but I mean,
they're not, a Jeep is, it's not a race car, right? So, they're going somewhat slow anyway. So it doesn't, 3 acres seems sufficient.
It does. Yeah. Well, she was more
What's the fastest lap?
So like she could only do half the obstacles, right? So anyways, but she wanted to be in an environment where someone could like show her stuff and teach her stuff, and the Bronco was new to her, and so she drove down 4.5 hours, and she's trying to come back. She's coming back, I think, next month too. So she got a new lift kit and she wants to come test it out because it's in a controlled environment where we have spotters like Dave and Wyatt, and we have great volunteers in the community. And they know what to tell you to do, how to do it. You can test different stuff, easier, harder. There's recovery there. If you get stuck, it's not an issue.
Do you have to pay for recovery?
No, we do it, but we ask if they either tip or tag. So you either throw tip money in the tip jar if the Where2Wheel crew does the recovery, or you tag on all your social media and like try to share it.
That's smart.
Yeah, and so she's come on from that. She's bought a shirt, a T-shirt, a sticker.
Yeah, she's been a great supporter.
Yeah, now we're having people show up with what I call the 3-for-all, the T-shirt, the sticker, and they're paying. Yeah, so it's been fun.
Yeah, and back to 3 acres, it's great for us, but like Windrock in Tennessee has 70,000 acres. Roush Creek in Pennsylvania has 1,300 acres.
But that's what we're fixing. Yeah, but it's smaller when it has Jeeps on it. Like those 3 acres.
How big is 70,000 acres?
Yeah, Zach and I, we must be thinking about this from a lawn mowing standpoint. 3 acres sounds like it's pretty large.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what.
Well, I'm just thinking of what I just saw in that video of the 2-door Wrangler going through. You do that. You have 3 of those style courses. It seems like that's sufficient.
It's one big course. I think there's 8 obstacles now.
Yeah,
and then there's a little trail ride.
Probably like 3 hours. 3 hours worth. Like after 3 hours, you've done everything. You've run it all, and you're ready to get out because you've done it all.
Yeah, everyone usually goes through like one path. If they're beginner, the easiest, and then everyone wants to try. Let me try the medium. What if I try this? Can I try that way? Can I go backwards down the opposite? Not reverse, but can I go the opposite direction? They like to go play, so we call that freewheeling. Freewheeling.
Yep.
So we have them come out, they go through, the course and the camera crew follows, and we get all the, YouTube content, and then they can freewheel.
Who's doing the video work? I wanted to ask you, is that okay? Interesting. So
I'm learning.
yeah. Okay. So you're learning. So you okay. I
You're
thought that
good.
actually was. I thought that video. I mean, I wouldn't have known that you were a noob in that situation. So,
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
because I know
very
that you
new.
guys. Say what?
He said I'm very new. We've only been doing it since July. Although Chris Shelton, I think, caught that on our gimbal with the film phone. And I have to give Chris a shout out. He is really good at like getting angles and like B-roll and like how to film it. He's really good at that. And then you kind of compile it all. We have two YouTube phone films going at the same time, and then I have mine capturing all the social media stuff. So,
but I mean, we just
the gimbal is very forgiving too, though.
What's that?
The gimbal is very forgiving. You know,
For sure.
Yeah, it's very easy.
It's a
to
good
use.
stabilizer. 15 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
The tech behind some of those things has really improved to make things a heck of a lot easier for people.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody has these,
not like
$1,500, $2,000 cell phones nowadays. So we just, everybody's cell phone has a camera that is perfectly adequate for YouTube. So we just use personal phones and then the gimbals. And
funny story, we had these two, their YouTube is geeks.tv, but they're film teachers. But they showed up with this like huge camera thing. And by, I don't know, an hour in, they just started their YouTube channel. It was too heavy and his arm was like tired. His discs were out of space, all this stuff. So he came over to me. He's like, "What are you using?" And I was like, "It's like $100 gimbal off Amazon." And he went and he messaged me the other day and he went and switched to that. Because his camera was, for off-roading, you need something really light, because you're walking around, running between vehicles. You need to stabilize. You need to be able to move it really quickly. So like holding a big camera is very difficult.
Those big cameras are really only needed for broadcasts so that they'll go and they'll stretch correctly. Yeah. Otherwise, for your your laptop and stuff like that, you don't need a crazy resolution camera. And that's what most people aren't thinking about in that kind of setting.
Yeah. So that's what we use.
Yeah, and the hard nut to crack has been convincing people. So since we have offered off-roading as part of the crowdfunding campaign, it's convincing people that aren't coming off-roading to get involved with the crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah, like if their Jeep's down, but like you can still support the park. You don't have to come wheeling, that's a message we made the crowdfunding message basically pay to come, or donate, and that gets you into the wheeling events, or go submit your receipt because you can't do zero. And now we have to kind of backtrack that a little bit to anyone can support and participate, even if your Jeep's down or you don't want to come. It's just a bonus that you could come.
Right. So yeah, we're trying to figure out how to balance the messaging of support the crowdfunding campaign or support the crowdfunding campaign so that you can come off-roading.
Yeah, I'm just over here thinking about you all can have a lot of fun in terms of like having some bands come out there, having like some sort of camping event stuff, and that would bring people that are your non-traditional people.
Yeah, we have 4-wheel parts on Virginia Beach Boulevard on the 13th. It's bringing, some of their employees are coming and they're bringing all their the 4-wheel. If you drive by 4-wheel parts, they have like a Jeep, a couple different Jeeps that are parked up like on their RTI ramp that they show off and stuff. They're bringing some of those, so that should be some fun.
That'll be a good connection. And Cavalier Ford brought out some vehicles, so that was a good connection.
Broncos.
Stirred up the Jeep crowd to have Broncos out off-roading. So that
oh my gosh,
it was an interesting insight into why the social media companies divide their audiences and like stir the pot essentially to get the audiences to argue with each other. Yeah, because so we're a Jeep page, and then when we put up
we're an off-road page, but majority of the market is or has been Jeeps.
The Jeep community adopted Where2Wheel. And then when we put up the Bronco videos,
they lost their minds. Even though 90% of our content is Jeeps, but I mean, the video went to like 4,500 views.
Yeah, in like 72 hours, the video went further than any other video we've done before.
Well, so what do you mean they lost their minds? Like they were like, "Yo, get this Bronco off of here! Like we don't like Broncos. Like we don't like OJ.
Dave,
like where are we going with this?"
Dave accidentally stirred the pot.
Yeah. So when I dropped the video, I titled or in the description I said that the Bronco is a better value than the Wrangler is, because the Bronco you can get the most aggressive off-road package on a base model Bronco, whereas if you're buying a Wrangler and you want the most extreme off-road package they offer, you have to buy the most expensive Wrangler. So I was arguing that the better value is the Bronco, and that made the Jeepers head explode.
If you were looking for like base model, the Bronco base model came with more off-road equipment than the Jeep base model does, which it does with sway bar disconnects and stuff. And that was it. They ran with it. Oh my gosh, this guy was like building Jeeps out on Jeep's website, sending me, just like crazy, like lost their minds. So that was.
So
really
does your
funny.
LinkedIn profile say shit stir or like what? Like what?
You didn't even think it was going to do anything because you were like, it's pretty. I mean, it's true. I mean, this comes with lockers and it's this and that doesn't. But they did not appreciate. Well, then some people were like, yeah, like your Jeep people are crazy. Some other people were like, I don't care as long as people are off roading. But 80% of them were just like.
Yeah, but so I get now why controversial content drives engagement.
It was insane. We weren't even trying to be controversial. They just didn't. They got upset.
Yep.
So have you become controversial a second or a third time to continue to drive traffic?
No, only from that Ford day. We had 2 videos come out of that were
the Bronco
the full-size Bronco off-roading, and then the Bronco Sport, which is a baby Bronco off-roading, and that made people's heads explode too.
Both went to like over 4,000 views with no boosting or anything.
But we haven't gone back to that tactic since.
Yeah.
So knowing that brands, like you said, when they'll split their customers if they know they have multiple customers, how does one do that? You just because if you have a brand that's built around 90% Jeep owners, but you're realizing that some of the Bronco stuff is here, do you create a second page? What do you do to make sure that you're not missing out on a part of that market?
We include it all. So like we've always been from the very beginning, while the off-road market is heavily Jeeps and we own, and that was the thing. Dave was like, I own a Jeep. Like people are like yelling. He's like, I own a Jeep. I'm a Jeeper. But we've always been, this is an inclusive, we don't care what you drive. We don't care. I don't care. Like, yes, most of the market is Jeep. And that is a lot of what comes out. So we do a lot of marketing with Jeeps and stuff. But, you can have a Bronco. You can have a truck. You can have, a Toyota. You can have a 4Runner. I don't care. Like off-roading is off-roading as long as it's, not ATV or side-by-side. We don't really work with that. That's a whole different market. So like when we, like people want to come out, I don't say, oh, you have to have a Jeep. And so, so like a lot of our content, most of it is Jeeps. That's just because that's the majority of the market, but we try to include everybody. I mean, there's a market for trucks. There's a market,
Mm-hmm. So I think we're trying to remain brand agnostic and just be about off-roading. And
the local people get it. It was the like national audience. Yeah. Like no one in our local group, the Proving Grounds, were like, you had a Bronco. But, national, some people, they were, they had to come in and do their Jeep pride. So, which is fine. Like, I don't care, you can, if you prefer a Jeep, that's fine. But we were just making a point, which the guy did have to kind of concede to because after multiple comments. So we try to stay kind of like, all inclusive, anyone can come, whatever vehicle, because there are different markets, although the majority are Jeep. But for now, we'll see. That could change. I don't see it changing, but it could.
Yeah, now if we get a title sponsor that's either, Jeep or Ford, then we can lean one way or the other, but it's got to be worth it for us.
Yeah. Is the price tag higher for Ford, knowing that you're going to take off all the Jeepers? Or
that's an excellent question.
Yeah. Although this is like the thing, like I told somebody someone asked us that a while ago and I was like, they might be upset, but it's like one of those where like, if you're the only game in town,
yeah,
they would still come. They just might not like it as much as if it was Jeep. But
All right, so you have this MVP, this prototype, this project out. It's not really making money at this point. What are you guys doing to stay afloat, living in Virginia Beach? I mean, you guys still doing the other thing? Like, where's money coming in?
We still own and work our healthy vending company. So that was the first business we started. It's mainly in the public schools, so COVID was real fun.
Well, that was going to be my next question. How was COVID with that? Yeah.
We got like a crazy break. Like everybody else went back like June, like restaurants open, you know, a lot of people like working at home, but a lot of businesses were back. Nope, not us. We had all the way till April 2021.
It was a long staycation.
Yes. So you were working on the off-road park. I actually had neighbors, our old neighbors, their kid was doing remote and they asked me to help tutor them. So I did that, which was actually really fun. I got to do 8th grade, like science and English all over again. So that was fun. Oh my God, it was so much fun. I kind of miss it. But so we, you know, government stimulus, the EIDL, PPP, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think total we got $235,000 in government assistance.
We got grants and stuff too.
Of which we 199,000 of that is debt that we owe back.
Yeah.
So it's over a 30-year term, so you can't be too mad about that. It's at a 3.5% interest rate. Can't be too upset about that.
It's like $700 a month or something.
But it is frustrating when the government tells you to shut down and then take out a $200,000 loan so you can stay in business.
Yes. But here we are. So we made it.
Can we talk more about this?
Yeah.
Because I mean, it is kind of ridiculous if you think about it.
Oh yeah.
Hey, by the way, you have to shut down. We're going to give you this money, right, so that you can float. But I mean, did you guys ever think about throwing in the towel? Like, where are schools ever going to go back? Like where are you on that whole like aspect? Because I mean, literally to have no customers, and you hear about the restaurants of the world and retail struggling and stuff like that, but to literally not even have the doors open for, I don't even know when schools went back to school. It seems like
Virginia Beach was April. They went back and they did a hybrid. Half of them were there
a full year off.
Oh yeah, yeah. Half of them were there for 2 days. Half of them were there for the other 2. Friday they were closed, and then they went back out in June.
Were they against a high touch area like that? Because a machine like that, I mean, it only gets cleaned, you know, when you guys come in, if you guys even clean it, you know, type of thing. Like you look at some of these things, I mean, just how often are people cleaning door handles? You know, like I was super paranoid during COVID. I don't know why, but you know,
hey, we all were.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a time where I think I was with Tim and I was like, can you open that door for me?
We're not like I mean,
I got a little weird.
Interestingly, there's antimicrobial film that you can put over the front of the machine and put it over the buttons and everything. And it's got copper filaments running through it, and the bacteria can't grow on the copper.
Yeah.
So
we never actually ended up using it.
We purchased it, and we told all the schools that we'd put it on if they request it, but none of them actually followed through with that request. So
and so Cape Henry Collegiate went back in person September 2021, and then we had a couple other like boys and girls, Rudy and Kelly. So there were a few that were still going, and then the public schools went back. We were really worried about that start of 2021 or in 2021. The whole like they're supposed to be wearing masks. Are they even going to allow the vending machines on? What if they're eating snacks? You know, actually I think they went back in February, not April. I don't know. It was after the holiday. They tried going back in November for like a hot sec, like 3 days, and they stopped.
Right.
So it was really one of those where we talked about throwing in the towel.
Yeah, we discussed bankruptcy.
Several different
I think at the time we had like $30,000 in debt on 6 machines that were purchased in 2018.
Yeah, and then
so
like we were.
Sorry.
Huh?
Keep going.
Go ahead. I was gonna say we were like, I know it was like holidays. I don't know if it was 2020. It must have been. And we were literally like, okay, we're gonna close it down. And then Virginia opened these grants, and you applied, and we got like 35,000. We're like, okay, well, maybe they'll go back in March. We'll just see. And it just ended up like
stringing itself along.
And then like PPP opened back up, and so we're like, okay, well now we have 2 more months. We'll see. And then they went back. So we're like, okay, well maybe we made it. I don't know.
Has it fully recovered since? Like, are you back
Yeah,
to?
actually, last year they were, I want to say, so focused on COVID stuff, they weren't really
Paying
focused on the
attention to vending.
machines.
Yeah.
This year, it's definitely been a little interesting. Some of the schools, they wanted them out of the academic wings because the kids are going to them, but then other schools are like, use the machine as much as you want. So it's definitely, the landscape is changing. We're having to navigate that but it is, I mean, it's back and, it's surviving.
Yeah, and so there's a greater need for control and tracking over the kids now, which has been an interesting shift post-COVID.
Some schools,
and
other schools.
It's going as far as they're having the kids use their cell phones, and they all have to have an app. It's like a hall pass app that they have to have on their cell phones. And the app looks at how many kids are out in the halls at one time in the building.
Yeah.
And until a student returns to his classroom, another student can't be released from that class, if that makes sense.
And it's just really interesting. Like, some schools are like really strict, like didn't want them in the academic. I'm not going to name schools, but didn't want them in the academic wings, like only in this area. Other schools are just like, can I get another machine? Like, and they're talking about going back to one lunch in January, which the year they switched to one lunch in 2019, they did one lunch. Our sales jumped 30% because basically the school moves to where everyone's on lunch for 45 minutes. The whole school is. And then after that, that's it. And so like a lot of the kids the principles of it are really good. So the whole reason they started this was so like kids that were doing sports couldn't get tutoring, or kids that were doing a sport couldn't participate in a certain club. And so now they can use the one lunch time to hold tutoring or club meetings or other stuff like that. And so that was the whole principle behind it. Obviously, COVID put a quick stop to that. I mean, they did that for all of 2019 and then into 2020 until it stopped. But they're talking about going back to one lunch in January. So
fingers crossed that they do.
We'll see. But so it seems like it's balancing back out, but some schools are still like, and then other schools are just like, free for all. So it's definitely interesting.
Yep. You brought up technology. When did vending machines modernize? Like,
oh boy, yeah.
I never paid attention to them, but it's just like when I saw
they're so
pay with
smart
Apple
now.
Pay and all that kind of stuff, I was like, wow, that's
When we started the vending company, which is in 2012. Well, actually, we started in 2011. The first machines were placed in summer of 2012. They had credit card readers, but it was literally just a swipe. That was it. Mm-hmm. And maybe probably 3% of our sales were credit cards.
We were at least 80% cash at that point. Credit card sales were a pretty minimal part of our sales.
And then it moved to, okay, now these new modems, you can also do the TAP, the near field communication. So that was the big shift. And then now it's, mobile pay, all of it. They can take any of it, your Apple Watch. And those are the newest modems. And we actually bought a bunch of those over COVID because they were running a huge deal on them. And we were like, okay, well, even if we don't survive, we can resell them because they're in the box. And so now most of our machines are at that, and probably at least 30% of sales, if not more.
It's over 50%.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. What percentage of your sales is cash now?
I didn't relook this year. Last year it's still a lot of cash, but the kids more and more now, because with Apple Pay, they just use their phone. They don't even have wallets at school anymore. So their watches. So a lot of it is becoming digital.
Do you guys pay that way? Like when you're somewhere, I don't have any of those things. I know Tim has an iWatch. It seems frustrated with it according to Twitter.
My phone.
Thinking.
It depends. Sometimes, honestly, this is awful. Like, we never use vending machines besides our own. So I can't remember the last time I actually used a vending machine. Actually, I tested one in Charlotte. Remember, I was on the phone with you. Now that we own vending machines everywhere we go, we always, in airports, we always go find the vending machine bank just to see, what machines they have, what modems do they have, who are they using, what are they carrying, are there anything cool in them?
Speaking of airports, those really expensive vending machines with all the crazy swag. It's not swag. It's like electronics.
Like Best Buy and stuff.
Is there good money in there? Is there markup in there? Like what? Like
I don't believe so.
No, I
So
think
Best Buy
they-
started that program, and then they sold off that vending division
Yeah.
to. I think it went in a couple of different directions. I know some of them went to makeup vending machines,
Yeah.
and then some of them went to Lego vending machines in the airports.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine they sold it if they were making too much money with it.
Mhm.
But
And now they're using, I just saw in the Charlotte airport in August, they're using old like restaurant, like refrigerators, like when you go to 7-Eleven, you open it. Now they're making these where you can use that refrigerator, but the door is like replaced with this smart door, and it has like it's basically replacing micro market. So a person doesn't have to work it, but there's a like modem and a keypad, and you swipe your card or enter your cash, and you have like all these banks of refrigerators, and you pick which number you want and you enter it. And once the product, is done, that door unlocks, and then the rows have sensors and they see when you peel it out. And if you can also swipe and then just pick whatever you want, and it'll just charge you at the end. That was like the newest thing I saw in Charlotte in August. I think that was really cool. I used that. That was like the most recent thing. I was like, how does this work? So that was kind of cool to see. But
do you guys get paid a sitting fee plus transaction fee or just transaction?
we charge them it's a 10-cent fee.
yeah,
for
so we
cashless.
pass along a 10-cent cashless fee that they have to pay when they use their credit card or something. But
You can't go above 10 cents.
But I'm saying like the school
period.
doesn't pay you. The school isn't paying you a sitting fee to have the vending machine in there, or you only
No,
have the
No,
money.
we pay them a commission, a percentage of sales based on.
Oh, so they
vending
make
per
money.
day.
Mhm. Yeah, they're getting either 15% of our gross sales or up to 30% net.
Yeah, depending on vends per day. So the more they let the kids use it, and the more the kids buy stuff from it, the higher their commissions are.
Yeah. And then one interesting thing, since we were talking about COVID, one interesting thing we did with the EIDL, which was Economic Injury Disaster Loan, is if you borrowed $200,000 or more, you became personally liable for it. So we made sure to stop that number at $199,500, so that the business is the only person that maintains liability for that loan.
Yeah, take it to the man.
Yep, that's right.
I wasn't really into. Well, at that point, we didn't know if schools were gonna and how it was gonna.
Yeah. We don't want to have.
And there was no point taking more money than we needed. I mean, that was plenty. It got us through the year.
Mm-hmm.
There's still cushion in there to deal with stuff that comes up. There's no point.
They were changing stuff left and right anyway. Where this is
Yeah.
going to be accepted, this isn't. So.
Crazy.
I mean, Tim and I are on these email chains where people are going back and forth on stuff. They're still talking about it today, and it's just like, oh my goodness, like, what are we doing here? Like, why do I need 17 emails a day to tell me about $4,000? Like, come on. Like,
yeah, it was a year of what I call the touch and go year. Like, oh, it's gonna be okay, it's not gonna be okay. Oh, it's gonna be okay, it's not gonna be okay.
Yep.
Constant back and forth. So
it was an interesting time.
What's next? How do you see the rest of this year play out? Are you looking to like be open 3 or 4 days a week? Are you looking to go from 3 to 5 acres, or so? What are your plans if you were the king and queen of wheeling for a day? Where would things go?
I think growth right now is the main thing. We suspect there are 190,000 people in the area interested in off-roading.
now.
Possibly more, but right now we've only got, I think, 1,200 people in the Where2Wheel group. So we need to grow that group to between 5,000 and 10,000 followers if we want to have some, solid conviction that there is a sizable market interested in off-roading in Hampton Roads. So it's really just exploring more growth opportunities, seeing how much more momentum we can get behind the crowdfunding campaign. When we stepped into the crowdfunding campaign, we knew it was going to take longer than 30 or 60 days, which is why we didn't use Kickstarter or Indiegogo, because we didn't want to be constrained to that time limit, knowing that this was going to be a slow burn crowdfunding campaign and that we were going to be hosting these events for at least a year to generate the capital needed to open an off-road park.
I would say if I was the queen of wheeling, we would find land and have the funding be able to start the park permitting process. That's where I want to see it go. But
is that with land that is undeveloped? Is the zoning thing? Is that the typical challenge that you face? That it's just not zoned properly?
No, actually, most of the rural land is in agricultural zoning, which is fine. You can pretty much do
Still got a
whatever you
conditional
want.
use permit.
Yeah, most of it we don't have to go through rezoning, which is good because that's like another 3 months. But to go through a conditional use permit process is a 90-day, process at best. You have to, submit your application. It goes up on their site for 30 days. People get to weigh in, and then it goes to city council and they say yes or no. And then if they say yes, then you go into another 90-day period of site map planning, which is basically, this is what we want to do. This is where parking is going to be. How are you going to, take care of the mud, all that stuff, which we've done a lot of that in the past. So we have a lot of that ready. And if they sign off on that, then you can start actually like building. So then the build out would probably be 3 months.
90 days, yeah. But
and then you can go from there.
Yeah, the constraint around this area and looking at rural land is wetlands. If there's wetlands on it, we ideally don't want to be off-roading through it because then you got to get a ton of permits from the Army Corps of Engineers, and that introduces a whole lot of liability. So trying to find dry uplands has been the constraint.
You can off-road in a wetland because you're not technically building anything, and they have all these guidelines on how to build trails through wetlands, like mainly from like Alaska, or like if people have land, you need to get across your land. If it's in a wetland, then you have to be able to get across it. So we can use it. It just takes a lot more
more maintenance, more bureaucracy,
more remediation. Like you basically have to open the trail if it's in the wetland. Once it starts being degraded, you have to be able to switch that one off and turn on a new one, which is we can do. But when you put the permit, the conditional use application in, that's going to be, depending on what you have to do, if it has a wetland delineation or not, it's going to be anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 just to submit your application, and you don't get any of that back. So it's kind of like, you're rolling the dice on whether or not, and then if it does have wetlands, then you have to wait for the Army Corps of Engineers to come in and also say, okay, we approve of this, which is, another 2 to 3 months probably because they're pretty slow. So
I remember when I first met you guys, I was impressed with some of the social stuff from a marketing perspective where whether it be a meme, something Jeep related, probably not Bronco related. We don't need to start that fight again. But something had gone somewhat viral and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm interested in, I've seen you guys are putting together the videos, putting a lot of content around that. When I think of Jeeps, something that a lot of people do is, the wave, something like that. There's the duck thing.
Yes,
People get ducked, right? Tim, have you ever been ducked, Tim?
No, I don't think I have my Jeep when that's
but
done.
so it's people will put like a duck on your Jeep, and then you're supposed to take a picture or something like that. Is there any marketing around that you guys are going to do, or not necessarily with duck, but like have you guys thought of something like that, or is there any kind of movement to get people in kind of like in that style, or what are you guys trying to do to get those 1200s up and higher?
Yeah, so I do most of all the marketing. You do the YouTube videos. And we're growing. We're trying to get to YouTube monetization too, because that would also that money would funnel into the off-road park pot, I guess you want to call it that, which we're getting closer on that. We're at like 870 something subscribers. You need 1,000, and you have to get 4,000 watch hours in 365 days. And we're at, I think, like 2,700, but we didn't kick it in until June. So you got to like take a couple months off of that. But anyways, instead of doing the ducks and stuff, so the ducks, you basically just put them on a Jeep so there are Jeep clubs like Hampton Roads Jeep Family. They could put, they put their name on it and they tell you to come join their group. So we could do that. We actually just made these cool business cards with a QR code to the group or to the off-road park page that a lot of people have been asking us for it so they can put it on people's Jeeps or when they're talking to someone. So we're kind of using that instead of ducks because everybody does ducks now. And people have so many ducks that it's just like kind of overwhelming. And it's like one of those, okay, well then they have to remember to go to the group instead of just having the QR code right there. But what a lot of it is I film a lot of them off-roading. So then when I post that and I make a reel, so I tell people, because everyone wants to see their Jeep doing the obstacle, right? So I'll tell them when I send them the message like, hey, go check out our YouTube channel. The content's going to be posted there, the Where2Wheel Facebook, the Proving Grounds Facebook, and on our Instagram. And a lot of people do go follow all of them. And then they'll share it on their page. And so it's using people's own content to kind of funnel back and forth has been working pretty well. So,
and just video content in general.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of the off-road video content being produced. It's not a saturated market. It's probably a underserved market as far as capturing and distributing off-road video
actual
content.
off-roading.
So just distributing the content, publishing
Yeah.
it, and getting our message out attached to that content has really been our best technique so far.
Yeah, we've had a couple.
Is there anything
shorts
specific
that
with that? Like I think a lot of people would say that's a good it's a good technique, it's a good strategy, but like you're just tagging them and they happen to be resharing, like what?
Yeah, so a lot of times, so like I'll tell them, you know, at the end of an event, we have a thank you message, a thank you for coming out, blah blah blah. Here's the t-shirt link if you want one, or stickers or whatever. But I also will give them all the channels and they know, because now we've been doing it, so people have been seeing it for a while. They know that we're going to load videos, and I constantly am getting message, when's the video going up? When's the video going up? You know, so then I'll tell them. And so usually by that point, they're already in the Proving Grounds group, but they might not be on the YouTube channel, or they might not be on our Instagram. And so about 60 to 70% of them will also then go and follow the YouTube channel or our Instagram. And then I'll see like they end up inviting people. So like when they go wheeling and then they share it on their page, and their friends who have Jeeps get interested. And so then they invite them to the Proving Grounds. It's kind of this flywheel that just kind of like spins itself. We just have to kind of keep it going. And so I'll post their stuff. I'll make reels and stuff with it, and, you know, I'll post it and tag them. And so then a lot of times they will also then take that post and share it on their page, and then say at the Proving Grounds. And then everyone's like, what's the Proving Grounds? And then they just funnel them back to us. So it's kind of like, I don't want to say free marketing, because I'm having to do the work, we're having to film it, we're having to edit it and all that stuff, but it's a form of unpaid.
Right. Yeah. And then the other tactic has been going to the off-road shops in the area and the clubs. And, you know, if we get a club with 3,000 people in it, we get a dozen of their members to come out. And then, you know, the entire group is going to watch the off-road content of their club at the Proving Grounds.
Yeah, that worked. Our very first one, we bought Hampton Roads Jeep Family, is one of the larger groups in this area, and they came out. They've been great supporters of it. They've donated. They bought a shareable pass for their members later when the park opens. But that created this whole funnel where then a ton of them wanted to come, so they signed up. That worked pretty well. We have a couple groups. It's reaching all the way up to like Richmond. Like for the night wheeling, we had 2 people from Williamsburg, a person from Richmond, a person from Gloucester. How do you say that? And it's like a 6:30, 9 o'clock event. And I'm like, y'all gotta drive home. Like, what if you break something? But they're just like, you know. So we were really focusing just Hampton Roads. And what we've learned is we can pull all the way up to Richmond. They are willing to drive down for 2 hours of off-roading. Just
you know,
to
those
go
Gloucerites
back.
are like that. You know, the Gloucerites, they love it. You know, they'll do anything for a Jeep park.
Did I say it wrong? Gloucester?
Gloucester.
Gloucester.
I don't know. All you guys and your names around.
You got to roll the S. I don't know what I just said.
I'm from like Iowa, where it's just like Cedar Rapids.
One thing is for certain, though, the only people that respect how difficult it is to grow a community are the people that have tried to grow a community, because it is not easy.
It is. Yeah, we're learning. So Where2Wheel.com's Facebook page, I think it's at like 45,000 people, 46, I don't know, somewhere on that. Between that and Instagram, I think we're almost at 50. And so we've had a lot of people that are like, want to work with us with the crowdfunding campaign, but also because we have this, you know, crowd audience of 50,000 people. So we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we leverage that audience a little bit more, because it's just kind of hanging out over there.
Right. Yeah, it's been interesting seeing that other people look at that and see a value to that we've got this audience that we can distribute information to. And for example, Saturday night wheeling, we had a $4,000 thermal camera mounted to the roof of my Jeep, and guess what fell off the roof of my Jeep? But I think
it was on loan from a local business.
Right. So then I got in touch with customer support for the company yesterday, and I ended up getting a phone call back from the CEO of the thermal camera company, because she saw that we have a 50,000 person audience, and then another 30,000 person audience on our private website, and she sees that as customers that we can access, customers that they could potentially access. So we ship them the camera back. They're going to fix it for free, and it'll come back to us, and we've just got to do a promotional video for the camera, and then then we don't have to buy a $4,000 thermal camera that we got.
Whew. So that was like, so this is a company, she's raised like 40 million in private investment up in New York. Her name is Mary Ellen Kramer. She's on LinkedIn. But then it's like us sitting here and she sees value in, the audience. So we're like, okay, how do we, but that worked out well. So, but we've gotten multiple of that.
When you're pitching to these communities, is it 50-50? Is it like 99-1? Like, how often are you getting no's? Are they all receptive to it? To the
groups?
Yeah, to the groups and stuff like that, where you're like, hey, like, we have this thing.
We have not had any of them said no. A lot of it's more like scheduling. When can they get, because we say, okay, we're going to close the park to a proving grounds day, because you can do a group day. We have a group coming out on Saturday, like the 4-wheel park's rented. I don't want to say rented, but it's basically they're creating a day where it's just their members. And you have to have at least 6 people for us to be able to do that, because then we have to take that day out of the availability for the general proving grounds public, if you want to call it that. And so it's more like scheduling and then getting the Jeeps, and then who can come down, who can't, whose Jeeps are working. If this person Jeep broke, can they switch someone else in? But we haven't had none say no. They're actually reaching out to us. It's so funny because when we first started the campaign, I kicked it off with messaging all these groups, and Hampton Roads Jeep Family is the only one that got back to me. And now, like, we've had 3 or 4, and then there's one from Richmond and one from Fredericksburg that are trying to get a date set for January. We're booked out through the rest of the year now. And then Florida Parts reached out. Cavalier Ford, your dad made that connection. So we haven't had any say no. It's more just scheduling, like trying to get everyone.
I mean, you're trying to sell, off-roading to off-roaders.
Yeah.
So. It's not a hard sell.
No. It's just more getting them to buy, it's getting over the hurdle of, this is towards something bigger than just coming wheeling for the day. Like, the purpose is to build a whole thing so that everyone can go wheeling all the days.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we're having to adjust our messaging here and there. But there's a lot of what I call super supporters. So, they just keep spreading the word, or they buy a t-shirt and a shirt.
Yeah. We had one guy, he bought a $1,500 pass. He's never met us before.
Doesn't even want to come. Well, he just see an off-road park built. That's it. I'm like, I need more of you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Send him a shirt anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably,
that's what I was saying.
Probably should. Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone was like, we need winter gear. And I was like, you guys just bought t-shirts. And I put up long sleeve shirts, and like, everyone's just buying long sleeve shirts now. So now we have people that have a sticker, a t-shirt, a long sleeve shirt, a hoodie, and are donating. Those are super supporters. That's what I call them. So yeah, I've been waiting to see when we drive around town and see a Where2Wheel sticker on somebody's vehicle. We've had several come to the park that have had them, but I mean, they're already,
Hey, why we have you on? You all have been big supporters of 1 Million Cups.
Yes. Yeah.
Give us the rundown real quick. We'll make a short for this. Help get that promoted out to folks. What's the haps with 1 Million Cups these days?
So 1 Million Cups Virginia Beach is one. We're sponsored by the Kauffman Foundation out of Kansas City. We're one of over 100 different communities across the country that meet on Wednesdays from 9 to 10 to have a cup of coffee and help the local entrepreneurship small business community. We call it pitch practice. So it can be anything from an idea to preparing for an investor pitch to, you just want to ask questions or get feedback, connections. We meet the second Wednesday of the month at Assembly in Norfolk, because we're trying to create collaboration here in the entrepreneur community in the 757. And the third Wednesday, we meet at the Hive in Town Center, which is a small business resource center sponsored by the city of Virginia Beach. So you can find us at 1millioncups.com/Virginia Beach.
Yep. And Assembly, if you haven't been out there, is a beautiful building to go visit. And you get to go sit up on their rooftop venue. It's a nice space to host 1 Million Cups at. So if you've got the availability, come on out and see Assembly.
So shout out to Hunter and Monique in the 757. Is it Collab now?
Yeah.
Excellent question.
Yeah.
And if you're a founder, I highly recommend you get signed up, Do your application, pitch at 1 million cups, or practice your talk at 1 million cups. Great place to get great feedback without being belittled or you don't have to be afraid.
Yeah,
Right.
Karen Eagle always calls it Shark Tank without the bite. Is
There
what
you
she
go.
calls it. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's good networking and connections. So I'm trying to think. We landed private investment from there. I was trying to think if we met Wyatt through there, but that was Jake's. So either way, it's good networking.
Love it.
Yeah.
Hey, is there anything we haven't talked about that you want to talk about?
No, I think we covered everything. Right?
Yeah, no, I think we got it. Tim, when's Tesla going to be back over $300?
Oh, wow. What an
I think that now that the Twitter deal is under the belt, I think that everything will settle out a little bit. I think.
Yeah, I think we should see a steady climb up towards 300 again. We'll see, though. I've been waiting for that for a minute.
Not investment advice, but I think things are settling out.
Yeah.
Yep.
We know when Zach's gonna bring his Jeep out to the proving ground.
Oh yeah, there we go, Zach. Yep.
You don't break anything though. So
we
do just trail ride.
We appreciate you guys giving the opportunity to share our story with you guys.
I've never taken my Jeep off road.
Of course.
So
I know.
First time for everything.
Yeah, I know a place where you can learn.
I'm a little nervous.
We've had a lot of that. We have a lot of beginners.
Yeah,
like a lot.
Oh, so now I'll be thinking. Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, no, we have and a lot of women, which we were really. I mean, this is a male-dominated sport, but
it's probably 50% female that have come out to drive their Jeeps. So
what are you saying to Zach then?
Well, no, because he was saying I've never been off-roading. I've never taken off-road. So I was just saying we have a lot of beginners. So yeah, we had 3 beginners there for night wheeling. So every event there's a beginner usually.
Oh yeah.
So we're used to it. That's all I would say.
All right. Well, maybe I'll see you sometime as a beginner, and we'll get out there and
it's a good time. You won't break anything.
Kick some dust up.
That's right.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all's time.
Yeah.
Have a great day. Cheers.
Thank you guys. You too. See ya.